Hi, my name is Kayla Stark. I'm an illustrator. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, in the United States. Um, I illustrated Roos Rocket, and I'm going to answer a few questions about being an illustrator and having ADHD, like Roo. The first question, what do you enjoy the most about being an illustrator? You would think this would be an easy question. I like the flexible work schedule. I often have creative energy in the late afternoon or late at night. Most regular jobs wouldn't allow for that. I like that every time I get an illustration job, I get to learn more about something or even learn about an entirely new topic. I've always wanted to be a forever student, so it's pretty close to that. Um, yeah. What's a typical day like as an illustrator? Does having ADHD affect the way you work? Well, everyday tasks vary pretty wildly because of the many hats I wear for my business. So I'm the illustrator, of course, but I'm also the marketer, the administrator, the accountant, the designer. But I'll tell you what my favorite day is like. I wake up around 9:30 a.m. I go to bed late. I brush my teeth, I change clothes, I take my breakfast and my coffee upstairs, which is where I am right now. I begin work, and I like to get lost in a drawing for hours. I take breaks to check Instagram, email, text messages, of course. I eat lunch at home, or if I can, I'll pack a lunch and drive into town to a shared studio space and do more work there. This work is less focus heavy, as I'm usually socializing at this time too with other artists. Then I come home, I do a workout. I like to lift heavy things. I eat dinner, spend some time with my husband and my cats while I watch TV, and then I work some more. I told you I go to bed late. I like to do a little more work when the house and the street are quiet late at night. Oh, and now to answer part two of the question. Having ADHD, it absolutely affects the way I work. My energy levels and distractibility ebb and flow throughout the day more so than a neurotypical person's would. I have to write things down like as soon as they come into my head, such as ideas or tasks, or I won't be able to remember them later. A new thought will replace it too quickly. Keeping a consistent routine is important too. I know where I'll be and when I'll be doing things throughout my day. Um, I'll mention exercise again. It quiets my brain like nothing else does, and it helps me think clearer. Basically, my present self has to plan for my future self being distracted. I keep lots of lists and calendars at the ready. Talked to my doctor about medication, that has helped me too. And some people's brains just work differently and need a little outside help to exist and thrive within this society, and I am one of those people. How do you bring characters to life? Do you base them on people you know? This is tough, and I don't have a specific process that I turn to. I'm always looking for something new. I guess the first thing I want to do is find an interesting silhouette or shape that suits the character. Once I land on that silhouette that I like, I begin adding details. Sometimes the characters have to look like actual people, living or historical, and other times I can make them up. When I'm making up a character in my imagination, I think I probably do pull from people I know or look for interesting arrangements of features that fit that character. Did your own experience with ADHD enable you to connect with Rue's story? Well, sort of. I was only recently diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, but thinking back, I can kind of relate. My ADHD manifests more as daydreaming quietly or being distracted easily, whereas Rue is a bit more lively and chaotic. I don't think anyone would notice when I was distracted or daydreamy, which is why I was diagnosed so much later in my life. What's the most challenging aspect of illustrating someone else's story? For me, it's knowing that the other person already has images in their mind of the characters and places, and hoping that the version I create exceeds those expectations. Sometimes there can be too many illustration notes that prevent me from taking the text and illuminating it in my own way. It's a fun and interesting collaboration between two or more, sometimes, artists. The text and illustrations need to work with one another to make sense as a whole. How did you create Roo's world? How did you choose the various aspects, for example, colors, to present the world and their imagination differently to the world outside? Great question. I wanted the color palette to feel cohesive throughout the story, so I chose desaturated primary colors, reds, blues, and yellows, as the standouts. Primary colors always make me think of classrooms in school. I suppose that's one reason I went with it. I didn't make a huge change color palette wise when illustrating Rue's imagination world. Since it's set in space, I had a vast expanse of darkness to bring into that visually to separate it from the real world, to separate his imaginary world from the real world. Was there one picture that was more fun to illustrate than the others? Yes. I particularly love the sequence where Rue is flying the rocket around Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. The angles and the movement in those spot illustrations, it was a delight to illustrate that. If a child wanted to become an illustrator, what piece of advice would you give them? Draw a lot. A lot. Draw everywhere and draw everything. Don't edit yourself or think that you have to draw the way someone else draws. The way you draw is what makes your work special. Developing your artistic voice from a young age will put you miles ahead later on in life. And thank you so much. I hope this was interesting and fun, and go draw something.